just sitting here in my backyard, enjoying the luxury of my lake with the birds singing and a gentle breeze and moderately clean air, which is a luxury, and dragonflies and fish and turtles. And I am abundantly grateful for all of these big and little things in my life. And it has made whatever we call this quarantine. I have some friends in Ireland. It's called lockdown. Whatever it's called, wherever you are in the world. It's hard. Some of us have things like this to look out and not feel quite so put away. And others of us have just tiny windows and cement walls and streets and cars and not a lot to remind us that the world is big. And that does make it hard. And it does make the walls feel a bit small and it all feel a bit claustrophobic. And it's interesting this week as the United States has been opening up. And it kind of reminds me of the last day of school or the scene in High School Musical where everybody's counting down the time at the end, at the beginning of the second movie where they're counting down, and then all of a sudden the bell rings and everybody jumps up and they all do this great big dance number and summertime. The thing is, it's all based on perception, the way we look at it. Now, granted, I have a very privileged point of view. And I've had a chronic illness for over 10 years. And even though this is a beautiful point of view to have, there are months that I haven't been able to leave the house because my body just doesn't cooperate. And so I understand the feeling of feeling trapped and feeling deprived of freedom and the privilege of movement, the privilege of choice. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is this perception. Because not only are we moving into freedoms of movement, but we are also moving into economic freedoms, with some of us going back to employment, others of us don't have employment, or we're waiting for that first paycheck, or we're waiting for new streams of revenue to figure themselves out. And then how to balance those back owed bills and how to play catch up and how to balance it all but still not feel like it's sand running through our fingers. So in my early childhood, I knew economic security. There were lots of choices for lunch. I had lots of choices for snacks when I came home after school. We went on road trips. We visited amusement parks. We visited my grandparents every weekend. We went on fishing trips. We went on road trips. We would either sometimes drive cross country or we would get on an airplane and visit the California relatives. And I didn't worry about everything was just right. I mean, it wasn't elaborate or anything, but Goldilocks would have been happy. The second half of my childhood had a plot twist. And at 9 years old, I learned pretty quick that food was expensive. That choices of lunch meat were a privilege. That choices for afternoon snack were a privilege. And by 10 years old, I understood what a mortgage was. And I knew what a foreclosure was. And I remember hearing my parents talk about how the bank could take our house and them not knowing where we would live next. And my perception became that we rented a house from a bank. And if we didn't make the payments, the house could be taken away from us by the bank and we would have to move. Now, when I hit junior high, high school, it kind of evened out a little bit. but it was never quite the same. I knew exactly how much milk the 6 of us drank. I knew how much food to take at meals so that my sisters had enough and my parents had enough, and maybe there'd be enough for leftovers the next day if I didn't take too much. I did go through the wish I hads in junior high and high school, like everybody else, and my mom was very clear and diligent about letting me know how much everything cost. She explained what a budget was and how a budget made sure everybody had enough, that the house could get paid, the bills would be paid, the groceries would be paid, and that the things that I wanted took away from what other people needed. And my perception became that if I didn't need those things, that was good. And so I didn't ask, because I didn't want to take away from other people. And I became acquainted with greed's little brother, deprivation. And I saw deprivation like it was faith. The more I didn't have, the more room I gave God to work. But it also protected me. Deprivation kept me from feeling disappointed. It kept me from feeling hungry. It protected me from feeling lonely. It protected me from never disappointing anyone or making anybody angry. And sometimes deprivation made me feel proud of myself and brave. And that's where I realized that, looking back, that there's a nastiness to deprivation. Just like with greed, it can be arrogant. It's self-absorbed. It wants things done its own way. I didn't like people to help me. I wanted to do it myself because I wanted all the credit. Or I wanted everything to stay where it was because I didn't want help. I was fine. It hates to share. It never has enough. And it never had too little. Because if I had enough, I felt guilty. Because then what did I need? If I didn't need, then I didn't have faith and God couldn't work. Perception. Now I went to college and I graduated and I became an adult, and all of a sudden I had paychecks. And all of a sudden I had this money. And I would have fun with it, and then I couldn't pay bills, and then I would pay bills, and then I couldn't have fun, and then there was this cycle, and I was overdrawn in my account, and then I wasn't overdrawn in my account, and I had it and I spent it, and then people would offer help and I would feel ashamed and I would hide my needs, or whenever I was around people and they would ask me for help, I would kind of look down on them and scorn them. And, I realized I had a problem, and my problem was deprivation. It kept me from being generous, and it kept me from being grateful, because I never had enough to give, and I never had enough to be grateful for. And I had to stop, and I had to shift how I saw things. And I realized that the long financial seasons that I grew up with created an idea for me that money wasn't going to last. And I needed to hang on to whatever money that I had, or I needed to get rid of it really quickly so I wouldn't, because it was going to go anyway. So here we all are, merging back into a normal, merging back into employment with paychecks and catching up, and what do we do next? How did I find a balance and shift my perspective and stay and develop this discipline of generosity while not having a lot? Well, here's what I did. First, what I did is I inventoried. I went through my house and I looked at my food and my bills and my clothes and my shoes and everything. And then from that inventory, I made a list, and then I put that list of all of the things that I inventoried and where I could see it. And that list is my gratitude list that I look at every day. And I remind myself, okay, my bills are paid, I have food, and I have the clothes that I need for today. And I have a little bit to share, because we all have a little bit to share. And if it's not money, it's my time or it's my labor. So here's an example. A friend of mine has chickens, and she lives on the other side of town. So I go to Trader Joe's a lot. She doesn't. So I check in with her every week, ask her what she needs. She gives me her list. I go, I pick up what she needs. I drop it by her house, leave it on her front door. She leaves a dozen eggs, fresh eggs from her lovely chickens, for me, and I bring them home. I don't have to buy eggs at Trader Joe's. Now, there are some weeks that I don't need eggs, but she needs things at Trader Joe's, and there are some weeks that she doesn't need anything, and I need eggs. So, but here I'm giving my time because I'm driving across town, and I'm being generous with a little bit of money because I'm not having to buy eggs. And it's a little uncomfortable because, again, I'm forcing myself to see that I have enough to be generous. The other thing I do after extending generosity to someone else, I extend generosity for myself. I purchase a small luxury. A bouquet of flowers, a flavored soda water, because that's for me. Or, a small box of Junior Mints, because that's what I like on my popcorn. And I do that because I have enough to have a luxury for myself so that I don't have to feel deprived. So I'm exercising this so that when a neighbor comes, when a friend comes out of the blue and says, hey, I need help, I already am prepared to say, what can I do? I don't have that hesitation because I know I have enough to share, because I have adjusted my view of what I have. So after doing that, I then start sitting down and playing with little other parts of my perception, which are my needs and my wants. This one's kind of tricky because we all need the ice cream and the soda in the movie, but we know it's really a want. We have a tendency to talk ourselves out of that. Oh, I don't need that. That's a want. But is it? What I do is I sit down and I think about that want. And I think, what is the need inside that want? I need to have a little fun. So then I take that need and I look at my budget. And if my budget doesn't allow all of those things, then I ransack the change drawer, or the couch, or the car, or wherever there's a stash of things. And then I run down to the corner store and get a soda or some form of a treat and curl up on the couch and watch a movie that I've been wanting to see for a long time. Now, is it perfect? No. Is it everything I've wanted? No. But it's just right. Something Goldilocks would be very happy with. And I do all of this to cultivate within myself this generosity and gratitude so that when the seasons of lean and tight are over and a season of plenty comes along, I can enjoy it. I'm not panicked. I don't have to run out the door feeling like I've been held prisoner or held back or been deprived. I can just go, oh, this is nice. The seasons of plenty are wider. They feel just right. I'm able to just sit and enjoy a savings account. And I can start planning for the next lean season. And I can also start looking around at my friends and the people around me for a person that's in their own season of lean and practice generosity towards them. And that is what tenacious optimism looks like. If you like what you heard today, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week.